Sunday, everyone. I am Coral and I am actually up in Hopland, California right now. I'm at Emerald Pharms, which is the first solar-powered dispensary. It's super exciting to be here. I'm surrounded by some beautiful plants I'm gonna tell you a little bit more about, but first I'm gonna light up a joint. I also have a surprise guest for this week's episode. Let's make sure we have something for us to smoke when he gets on the show. And welcome John, come on over. He has been with Emerald Pharms since they opened, the official beginning, right?
Yeah, exactly, same week.
And he has been bud tending here and providing a lot of service to patients. And I had the chance to work alongside him yesterday, providing access to patients and answering questions, and I was really impressed. I'm super glad you're on the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Stoney Sunday, if this is your first time watching, it's a question and answer show. So we do take questions live. If you're able to join us while this is happening live, you can always submit a question. We'll try to get to it. But if you are watching after the fact, you can always go on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, wherever, and leave a question or a comment, and we'll try and get to it next week too. And I have prizes this week. I'm trying to do prizes now for people that submit live questions. It's kind of like a newer thing.
Nice.
And one of the prizes actually comes from Emerald Pharms. This feels like a hemp shirt. Is this a hemp shirt? Yeah?
It is.
Why do you guys use hemp?
Shirts. Well, the property we work on is all sustainable and like focused on like permaculture things and just like renewable things and recycled things, and so I like to kind of keep that vibe and
it's like the obvious choice, huh?
Yeah, exactly. The whole solar living thing kind of keeps it going.
So we've got this, it's called High Grade Apparel is the hemp brand, I think, the recycled cardboard tag. And then the shirt is gonna be given away to someone that asks a fun live question and stimulates some good conversation. Like you were saying, it's all about sustainability. And when I first started shirts, I didn't even think to use hemp. It didn't cross my mind. I was like, oh, I'll just get some really soft, some quality shirts printed. And I liked them. I did a couple rounds of them. But then it was because the feedback online, people were like, you need to use hemp. If you're talking about cannabis, if you're supporting things that are better for the earth, you need to use hemp. And I'm so glad I made that switch, because the more that I learn about it, the more it's like, why aren't more companies doing this? Why isn't every cannabis shirt printed on hemp?
That was exactly how I felt when I started working here. Like, there's some things that I've learned like working here where it's like, yeah, at first I was like, kind of like, I fit into like that younger based community, like in the community, like in the cannabis community. And being here and like being in this like at Emerald Pharms, I've like learned about stuff like that. Like kind of just doing things the right way and like doing it because it's like, it feels right and it's good with the whole hemp shirt thing.
So easy to make a choice when it actually feels right, rather than like you're told to do it. And even when it comes down to regulations too, like you have to do it, it has to be this way. Like, no, just educate people, let them make the choice for themselves of like, this is the obvious right choice, you want to use hemp. My favorite thing about it is that it's well, not my favorite thing, there's so many good things, but for hemp and for like crop purposes, it's really a good rotating crop, so that farms can actually have an active crop throughout the entire year and throughout like the years as they go on without depleting the soil and having to give it a rest. So they can actually rotate it and be able to grow continuously and harvest more, and it takes less time, and I think that's super cool.
Have you ever heard anything about hemp? Like it's used in, like, same thing with crop growing, but they're using it now and they're having like studies with it to show that hemp actually pulls toxins out of the soil.
Yes.
So it can be great for places that were non-organic before that are trying to go organic.
Oh, wow.
But it can also be a bit of an issue in like the cannabis industry where people are sourcing some of their CBD-rich medicine from hemp.
That is a huge thing we talk about. We're trying to talk about as often as possible on the show, and it was really nice to talk about with patients yesterday, is that you want your CBD to come from hemp, or excuse me, to come from cannabis, Cannabis, you want whole plant extract, and it's because even if you have the small amount of THC, it's that one ratio THC, 18 CBD, that little bit of THC has been shown to help CBD be more effective, be more beneficial, and actually be of more medicinal use to you than if you just had 100% CBD.
Exactly, it acts like a catalyst, and so THC grabs onto the receptor, and if all your receptors are filled with THC, there's no room for CBD, but CBD can grab onto the receptor on top of the THC. So if you have a CBD-rich medicine with THC, it can grab more receptors. It's pretty crazy. And everybody's ratio is different, everybody absorbs differently, which is kind of one of the cool things, but also a little bit of the challenge, like trying to guide people with using CBD-rich like medicine.
And even with people that come from like a pharmaceutical background, they're so used to easily repeated results and having a specific dosage, and you know, you create a medicine, you know exactly what it's going to do for every patient. It's so different with cannabis because
So
exactly
different.
what you said. We have different numbers of receptors and different compatibility in our brains. I like to think of it as like our endocannabinoid system is Velcro, and we all have different like Velcro densities. Like some of us just have more and some of us have less, and like two different types of Velcro don't stick together. I don't know if that's a weird analogy for anyone else to like use, but like there's different types of Velcro and like two don't stick together. You have to get two that mesh up, and that's what you want. So
Exactly.
my brain's like Velcro and I need those little hooks.
You know, the other day I experienced something like that with like people in like the pharmaceutical company and things like that. All those things are really high milligram. Like all like the pills you get, stuff like that, they're all above like 30, 40 milligrams. And I've experienced recently like with a lot of people coming in and automatically thinking that they need a high dose. And that's not necessarily the case with cannabis. It's just like any other vitamin or nutrient. Like you have to titrate your dosage. You have to start low and kind of increase. Your body will just waste it away. It'll go right through you if you just try to ingest it in copious amounts. And I find that it's a hard thing to kind of get newer patients and pharmaceutical people who are in that industry to understand.
Because they want like more and more. They think it's gonna be more
They think they just like their
effective.
tolerance, if they're taking like 5 like painkillers, they think that they need to be taking like 50, 60 milligrams. And in fact, they may need to, but when they come in as a new patient, that's not where we want to start them at. Because then it
Yeah.
also creates that risk that if they're just a little bit sensitive to THC, that they risk like maybe becoming paranoid or some of those negative effects associated with
If they're like
cannabis
just
use.
starting to try it out and they just rush into
They've
it.
never
and
used it.
totally
Yeah, they just rush into it. So that's like this big misunderstanding. It's like plant medicine works a little bit differently, and it works better with your body when you mix it.
It is such a beautiful day. I think everyone with a motorcycle in Hopland is driving behind us right now and cruising
Actually,
through.
it's really cool. They're having the Redwood Run. It's a really big thing, so all of the bikers ride up into the Redwoods for 2 days. My uncle just did
Saw
it.
a few. My boyfriend and I come from like motorcycle heavy families, and we saw some motorcyclists today that seemed very inexperienced and like they didn't know how to merge, and it was awkward for all of us, and we were trying to figure out, we're like, is it because it's a weekend? They're just like out enjoying it, but no, it's because there's a big celebration. That makes sense.
Super crazy. Person's okay. But did you hear about what happened last night?
Yeah,
Like,
I did.
So glad they're okay. Everyone's
I know, I
alright,
wasn't sure what we should do with mentioning on the show, but I'm glad that you did bring it up because I didn't want to like, I didn't know how
well, it
to
was
bring
something
it
that
up.
happened here at Emerald Farms. There was a lot of traffic. We're right off the highway, and there
Yeah.
was somebody or something that happened last night.
Oh,
but-
well, I mean, did you hear about Florida? I thought that's what you were mentioning.
No, I was talking about there was an accident last night on the freeway.
Whoa, okay, well,
But
there's a lot going on. I do have to mention, did you hear about what happened in
I did
Florida?
hear what happened in Florida.
Yeah, I wasn't sure whether to bring it up on the show, but last week's episode was actually about whether you would smoke weed at Pride, and this was the start of Pride celebration in a lot of different areas. And if you guys aren't aware, there was the largest shooting on U.S. soil, like in U.S. history, and it happened at a gay club in Orlando. And I want to express condolences for every single person that's lost someone, that knows someone, that experiences that fear. I don't really think there's like anything. I don't know anything else to be said.
Yeah, I just would like to
Condolences,
express that as well. Like I found out about it this morning. I compete on a color guard team, and it's just like a dance team, and it's like all over the country, all over the world. And somebody that I have competed with, like just known from team to team, actually was posting about it, and they were there. They were like carrying people away, and like had to like they tore down a wall, and yeah, and then like you start moving through your feet, and you saw it. So super crazy. We'll
One thing
have
that
one
was,
of these
like-
for them.
Yeah,
It's, like, good
absolutely.
energy that way for sure.
And about Pulse, I had not heard of Pulse nightclub before today and this morning, but one thing I learned about it that actually like reminded me of Emerald Farms was that it seemed to be almost a resource center. Like they had different nights of different themes and different like, it wasn't just like a nightclub to go and party at, it was also like kind of like a big place where people were joining all the time. And like I guess last night was actually like a Latino themed night, and like it wasn't just a club, basically is what it was. It was also a place for people to get to know each other and have a safe place together. And it's always, to me, in my heart, it's always an act of terror when safe places are attacked. And I think it's scary. It's a hateful
Totally.
situation. But on an uplifting side, we do have a joint to smoke in everyone's honor. And we have so many joints because I got this 5-pack of the Hepburn joints. And so now we can each just have like a personal one. We'll light up and I hand this to you.
These are so nice. They're perfect for like when you go out. Like they fit like right in your pocket, and you can take 5 with you. And I feel like the cold water hash in it kind of helps it burn slower.
Yeah, I think so. I was kind of hesitant and like doubtful because they're so small, but I think you're right that the hash actually makes it burn a lot slower than you would expect. There's just chaos everywhere over the weekend, it sounded like. Yeah, I found out a lot about it through social media too. And I just also want to point out that like social media is a great way to get news before the mainstream news reports have decided their angle on it. You can actually go and get a lot of first-hand accounts, like you were saying, people that were actually there, friends of friends, things that were shared. And I think that it's really important to find those accounts before CNN and Fox and MSNBC and everyone shares what they think happened and their opinion on it. Social media is such an important tool in these really, really scary moments because we can actually hear from the people that are there.
Yeah. Pretty cool. Well, I noticed you mentioned these lovely ladies we have. These are really cool plants. You're talking about CBD rich medicine and stuff like that. These plants are black beauty plants, so they are actually THCV rich strains, which is a new cannabinoid that's being studied. Not a whole lot is known about it, but
I've never heard of a THCV rich strain. I've heard of some like process things where they try and like isolate it and maybe bring it out, but so not just like a whole strain that's really...
Yeah, kind of just like how CBD grows naturally in the plant. These ones are kind of just showing a little bit stronger cannabinoid profiles for THCV.
And the strain is called Black Beauty?
Black Beauty. I actually got to see this flowering a couple weeks ago, and it literally turns like the blackest color and it's so shiny. They're an African strain. Very cool. Very cool.
And THCV, my first thought when I hear it is appetite suppressant. But is that 100% what it does, and how does that even work?
There's actually not a whole lot of information on that right now. What I've heard, and I may have it a little backwards or whatever, but it's not necessarily a suppressant. In high doses it does one thing, and in low doses it does the other. And one thing, and whatever the actual system is with that, one actually suppresses it, and one actually increases it.
Interesting.
So if it's a lower dose, I'm not sure if it was lower to higher or whatever, but like if it's say it was a lower dose of THC, it would actually suppress it, and if you had a higher dose of THCV, then it would increase your...
So all the more reason to start with the low dose if that's what you were going for. Because I've heard of it mentioned, because there was a synthetic like mirror of cannabis that was made in the UK years and years ago, and its goal was like a weight loss drug, and they thought like, oh, if cannabis gives you the munchies, we'll make the opposite of cannabis and it'll stop people from getting the munchies and they'll lose weight. And they gave it to people and people killed themselves because not only were they not hungry, but they didn't feel joy. You know, like we forgot like what else could be connected to this euphoria and this sense of feeling from cannabis. So it's really, really interesting to me to think that like by turning off feeling joy from food, you could turn off just feeling joy and feeling satisfaction from life. And I'm really, really interested in like a more natural way and a more holistic way, and the fact that cannabis can grow with just heavy THCV, so you're still getting some THC, you're still getting like the whole plant benefit, and you're not just isolating it and taking away that joy from your life, but you are able to actually get some of the benefits of perhaps suppressing the appetite if that's what you're looking for. I think a lot of Americans are, honestly.
Yeah, if you think about it, like the plant's just giving us that ability. Like now that we're like understanding that like we need the whole thing and that it has all these rich untouched properties, like the more we focus on just unlocking all of its properties versus trying to separate and isolate and like conquer one property, the more it shows us. Like it's amazing.
That's so true what you just said.
Yeah,
it's so true. And THC was isolated in 1964.
I was gonna mention that.
Years ago. That was a long
how you
time
talked
ago.
about how they separated and people had those like adverse effects. They actually have that now. Have you ever heard of Marinol? It's like a synthetic form of THC, and they use it in the pharmaceutical world. People have the same adverse side effects from it, like suicidal thoughts, depression, all these things that come from high doses of THC, things that the full plant, when it has like a balance of CBD, actually counteracts those negative effects.
The plant is meant to be consumed as it is, and I think it's just so true what you said about really looking to unlock each cannabinoid rather than make them the best or the champion of one. Because we isolate THC, we didn't isolate CBD until like
and they're trying to
2000 something. So there are just so many more. There's so many more to still actually learn about.
Exactly, and we're finding like have you heard of the link between THC and THCA and like the acid forms of cannabis, the raw forms of them? We've unlocked like the anti-inflammatory effects of like CBD and THC as a pair and using them together, but they're also noticing that when we use cannabis raw, like non-psychoactive, just juiced fresh off the plant, like is like a missing link to some of the anti-inflammatory THCA, which is just the raw form right there on the plant.
Yeah.
If I took a leaf and started chewing on it, like that would actually be like a really higher anti-inflammatory properties than CBD.
I've heard a little bit about juicing and raw, but it always came back to like, well, it's not, you'd have to grow so much to actually juice it. And so like I've never actually pursued it, I've never looked into it, but it makes a lot of sense, and I have been trying to eat more leafy greens and everything.
There's this misunderstanding, and if you like, yeah, you'd have to juice a lot of leaves to get enough cannabinoids for it to be like rich. So the idea is to grow buds and to juice the buds, and those are full like things, and they actually have a lot more flavor because the terpenes are being released there, things like that. Some people like to add them to salads. Actually, it's not too bad of an idea. But if you juice the leaves, and you have to use leaves, like most people, what they think is they're gonna veg a plant and they're gonna juice it consistently off the leaves. You have to juice a lot of leaves to do that.
Yeah.
Chlorophyll and leaves can upset people's stomachs. So that's where this new understanding with a higher cannabinoid bud and less chlorophyll in the bud, and it's a richer medicine.
Yeah.
People like to freeze them and add them to coffee, like make ice cubes, and add them to coffee, add them to like tea. It's so cool.
I was picturing like how some people have frozen bananas for like smoothies and whatever. You just have frozen buds. Oh yeah, this will be perfect. I've been saving this. This will go great with strawberries today.
Yeah, it's super cool.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, the more they study, the more they understand that like the full plant, like as long as we just continue to like love it and help it unlock itself, it's gonna get better and better. We just don't ever want to separate it.
And sometimes I feel like when concentrates first came out, people were only running like trim or second quality or lower quality stuff because they wanted to sell the bud for high price points and then also sell what was like not really high value, but then turn it into BHO and sell that. So I kind of feel like juicing and those types of things might go through the same process where people are using what was extra before and they're just using the leaves, they're just using trim, and they're expecting top quality. But no, ultimately as we have more people growing, we have more access to bud, people can grow for themselves. There's bigger gardens they can just buy good quality bud at lower price points for. They're gonna be able to juice more often. They're gonna be able to actually have access to it. Because I know a lot of people, they're like, you want us to juice buds? Like that's totally out of reach for them. But the more people that grow, the more buds that are accessible, the more that's actually gonna seem really practical and like you were saying, more beneficial.
Exactly. There are a couple product lines that you can find, like Treatwell. They have a THCA line, which is MCT oil based tincture that's available like to get like the raw form for people who are looking for that. And like you said, it's really hard to find this medicine in the off seasons. So.
Now I don't mean to like, you told me something yesterday. I'm gonna say, like, I don't want to say where you worked before, but you were working at like a fast food restaurant before.
Okay, yeah.
And it blows my mind. It blows my mind how many people could be working at fast food restaurants right now that are just so knowledgeable and so able to help. And like, just seeing you communicate with patients was so cool yesterday. You were really, really well informed on the products on the shelf, and that's just awesome. So I feel like there are a lot of people out there that are like working jobs. Like, I don't know if you like the fast food job as much as you like this job. I
don't feel as valued.
Okay.
I feel very valued here. Taught me a lot of the great customer service skills, but it was one of those things where I never enjoyed selling burgers, fries, or drinks. I had no passion, I had no connection to that. Like, cannabis is something that reached out to me and like kind of helped me get through life. And so being able to come back, it's like, I always see things in life as a way to give back eventually. Like, I'm a dance perform and compete, and at some point I want to be able to teach dance because I won't be able to like do it anymore. The same thing with like cannabis, like it's just one of those things, like I have the ability to like, I'm blessed enough to have that ability to grow and have that ability to dance and have these things, and so most people can't. And so it's one of those things you should share. If you have the ability to do something that others can't, you should share it.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you're on the channel right now. I'm so glad you're saying these things because it's true. And sometimes you just have to look around, and I feel like take those opportunities. Oh no, you keep going. I have more. Actually,
I'm like, all right. I'm smoking kind of slow. I'm like, I've been working hard the last few days. I'm like, just like chilling with it, babysitting it.
No, you're providing good info. I love it.
This is awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad. But yeah, if you feel the same way about cannabis, if it has saved your life, if it's helped you through things, I felt the same way about waitressing. Like, I liked my job. I loved going in and talking to people. I had a good time. There were hard days for sure, but at the end of the day, like, I was at a raid one time and I had the sense of like, I could stay and cover the raid, or I could go serve fish and chips, and like, no one needs fish and chips that bad. No one needs them that badly. They're fucking fish and chips, and like, this is something way more important. And you know, I just think people need to really kind of like get that moment. So sometimes it's because you get a phone call that there's a job offering, sometimes it's because a raid happens in your community, but you'll know when the time is right in your heart, when you can just give back and go and start sharing. And I can only imagine what it's like working at Emerald Farms with the quality of products you guys see and all of the cool vendors that you have. You probably just get to like soak it all up.
It's so amazing, and it's just so amazing because we get to like share it and get to like, I don't know if we mentioned this yet about Emerald Farms, but Emerald Farms is a resource center.
Oh yeah, we hadn't even mentioned
you do not have to have a recommendation like most dispensaries in California. You can, there's no security guards, it's super chill, you can come right in. We allow children underage, grandma, Ido,
but not to medicate or purchase.
Not
like,
to
if
medicate,
you guys know
everyone can come in.
law,
Yeah.
like, you know, they're not going crazy, but it's a resource center that, like you're saying, anyone can come in, ask questions about the products, look around. They could potentially like shop for a patient that they know and then give the patient like a gift card, or you're like, you know, happy birthday, here's $100 to Emerald Farms. I know they have the Ohm stuff that you like, or the, you know, specific
We don't
brands.
have gift cards yet. That's a really good idea though.
Gift
but
cards.
Because technically, like in the cannabis industry, you're not allowed to purchase for anybody that's not a patient. But yeah, like I was saying, with the cool thing you said, with the cool thing with the resource center is anyone can come in, but nobody can medicate here. We don't medicate on the premises, but anybody can come in and ask questions. They can learn. They can check out all these things. They can. A lot of people have this misconception that cannabis is all smoking, which is like what we're doing, but there are a lot of other options and a lot of things, and they actually find with like ingesting cannabis on like a regular basis with like products like a sublingual or things like that, you get more beneficial and reparative benefits.
I'm actually gonna use this spray. I did a whole video about finding out like, you know, to use CBD for anxiety, and actually it's tied in with the video of getting my card online. And I've been using this ever since that video. I think that was in like November. I ran out, and so when I saw this up here at Emerald Farms, I definitely was super excited to get some more. And you guys, we've been talking so much, we barely had any questions come in. I think everyone was just super excited to like listen. But we do have a giveaway. So we're gonna try and see if we can get one super awesome question. Rush the questions on the live chat. Just some key info. It's a solar powered dispensary. It's on Real Goods. That's the name of the facility, right? Real Goods?
So it's the Solar Living Institute is the property. The Real Goods is the store that's here, and then Emerald Farms is on the property as well.
And the Solar Living Institute has been teaching people actually about solar panels and solar energy and sustainable living for years and years, like 20 years now, right? 20 years. So there's a lot going on outside of just the cannabis here on this property, but it's really all kept in mind with the sustainable focus, which I don't know if a lot of people know that my family history is like really deep with sustainability and eco and being green, and my like aunt family friend started a sustainability academy down in Monterey where businesses go and they learn how to have sustainable business practices. And I kind of always thought like, oh, whatever, like, oh, Laura Ann, you're so cool, you're so kooky, you're so silly. But then I like learn about businesses that are like terrible, and I'm like, oh shit, they need to go to sustainability.
I'll be completely honest, I used to be like that when I first got my job here. Like you work in a fast food restaurant and you just see so much waste, you see so much stuff, and you become very like accustomed to that. And so when I got here, it was like, we would joke about things like as we were setting up, like from the first week we had like, we built this place, like, and so there's always been like a little joke about like, oh, is that sustainable? Like, is that renewable? Like, and at first it was like a little bit of a joke to kind of like stay on each other because we were new to the property and the property is so like dedicated to that. But now it's become like a pride and a joy to like have that, like have the rights to say that, or like have the ability to like preach, or like. It's
true. My mom's countertop is recycled granite and glass. Like, it's not hempcrete, but it's like recycled, not granite. It's concrete and glass, and it looks really cool, and it's like instead of granite. And then I saw the bathroom signs here about having like weird bathrooms and recycled stuff, and I was like, yeah, I love it, I love it. Okay, so we have a bunch of questions coming in. I see Miss Batty Babe asked, what about other dispensaries? Do you think other dispensaries will try to use natural power? What about hydropower, wind power? Maybe why do you think solar power is the way to go? Slash, has anything like this ever even, I've never heard of even rumblings of anything like a solar powered or wind powered.
To my understanding, we are the first solar powered cannabis dispensary. It's really cool. I would love to see other things like hydropower and wind power. The cool thing and the reason that we're solar powered is this is the property that we're on is the first place a solar panel was ever retail sold. And so the owner, John Schaefer, actually banks a lot of his successes in solar on the cannabis industry. We're right here in Mendocino County, and I live in this little town of Hopland, which is less than 800 people.
Wow.
And
I feel like they were all here yesterday at the grand opening.
It's really crazy that the town is so far spread out, and so 800 people spread out in this amount of space is like you don't see your neighbors for every quarter mile, and it's pretty crazy. But so the idea behind that is that all these people are cannabis growers up here, and they live on these mountains, and some of them live with no water, no electricity, all kinds of stuff, just literally completely off the grid. And so those were the first people not being able to spend a lot of the money they make because it's cash and have it buried in the ground. Those are the first people to invest in solar. And so he banks a lot of his successes on the cannabis industry because they funded it for him.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah, so that's the whole reason that he wanted to add a dispensary to the land, because it is coming around, and why not? We're like the first place when you pull into Mendocino, across the county line. So the first dispensary, first stop, to be honest. There's not really much out here.
And I think a lot of people, like you're saying, it's a small town, but a lot of people are so cannabis friendly and so cannabis heavy in this area that to have a dispensary be successful and actually make money, I think would be difficult, but to turn it into a resource center and to find such high quality products, the topicals, the tinctures, the edibles, the bath products, like those are things not every grower cares to make at home, knows someone that's making, and I just think it's really interesting. So a lot of those places I bartend at, it's all flower, and here I feel like people can get their flower, they're growing their own flower. It's a lot of these other products that they need the medicinal use for. They're not growing high CBD strains, they don't even know about THCV strains maybe, and they're coming in here because Emerald Farms is really cultivating something just unique and really high caliber. So I'm super excited that you're on the channel. Miss Batty Babe, I think was your name. Miss Batty Babe, you are getting a prize pack that also includes a fish and a medtainer. Well, bam! You get the fish pendant and a Stoney Sunday medtainer as well. And if you guys want to know more about Emerald Farms, they're all over social media. They were also covered in the newest issue of Cannabis Now magazine, where I learned a lot because you guys were really humble, and when we were setting up me coming up here, no one really told me about the history of the facility. So that article was super, super cool and really like a good read.
That was a great article.
You gotta check it out too?
Yeah, I was here for that actually.
That's awesome. So thank you so much for joining. You want a final puff on this?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you guys for watching Stoney Sunday. I will be back next week with another special guest. It's kind of like a surprise.
And then you can follow Emerald Farms on Instagram at emeraldfarms_IG.
And if you follow me, I've been tagging them a bunch, so really easy to find.
Yeah, I have an Instagram as well.
Yeah, what's your Instagram?
Mine is John_Donham, DONHAM as in Mary, number 3.
How do you spell John?
JOHN.
Okay.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I was thinking JON, so I'm glad I asked. Okay, we'll get your screen name in there. Go follow him. It was a great resource and a great bud tender.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure working with you.
Good. Thank you, and happy Stoney Sunday.
Happy Stoney Sunday.